All right, well, thank you, Professor Thorson. My name is Roger Smith, and I'm the Connecticut co-director for Clean Water Action. I think I know a lot of the people in this room. We're a nonprofit that works on public health-related issues, and I've been working on issues related to energy and air pollution and global warming since 2001. So I just got back from a month in East Asia. I was in Japan, I was in Taiwan, and I was in Shanghai. And I just wanted to bring back maybe some thoughts about our energy future from a place that maybe like the strontium-tainted earth in Connecticut also sometimes feels a little bit like a future. In some ways a good future, maybe some ways a future that we'd rather not like to have. So as Hurricane Sandy was bearing down on the United States, I was outside in the moonlight next to the concrete shell of what used to be a city hall in Rikuzen Takata, which is a city in northern Japan. On March 11, 2011, a tsunami that was triggered by a huge earthquake rushed over the 20-foot high seawalls, took down a forest of 70,000 pine trees until there's only one left, wiped out the downtown business area and a lot of homes. And a third of the employees in that city hall perished on that day, along with about 2,000 of their fellow residents. And shortly thereafter, about 130 miles southwest of there, the tsunami knocked out power to the grid, and then swamped the backup generators at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. And that led to, as you all know, a loss of cooling and then hydrogen explosions that totally devastated the secondary containment of those reactors. And that led to a large-scale release of radioactive material into the local environment. Today there's a 12-mile exclusion zone around that power plant, and about 80,000 people have become nuclear nomads. The fishing fleets in that region still go out and catch fish, but now they bring them back and sell them to the government to test for cesium. So I took a look at that twisted metal that used to be a department store next to the town hall and really hoped that that wasn't the future that I was going to come back to in Connecticut after the storm. And I hope that maybe their past wasn't an omen of our future. So what is our future? Is it a future of disaster? Is it a future of resilience? And I think that's a choice that we all get to make collectively. So I got to spend a day with the vice mayor of this town, Rikuzen Takata, and also one of their environmental planners. Both are men in their 30s, and they're actually not from there or anywhere near there. They volunteered after the disaster to help because they wanted to do something good. Rikuzen Takata, which is a small town, so it's a town of 20,000 or so people, decided to join a new program that the Japanese government launched called Future Cities. And they have ambitious economic, environmental, and energy goals all together to really try to reimagine what a future could be like for this area. They showed me some of the initial plans that they had for the reconstruction. Parts of it were not rebuilding in the same places that are the most vulnerable to the sea. Maybe putting small-scale farming and putting businesses there, so even if a disaster happens, lives aren't lost. Moving people to some of the higher lands, raising the lands in town. And then if they are going to rebuild homes, rebuilding them as super energy efficient homes, rebuilding them as homes with solar power. They had plans for large-scale renewable generation and energy storage because, in their words, they wanted to free themselves from their reliance on nuclear power and fossil fuels. And while these plans are years away from fruition, I mean, they're only a year and a half after a massive disaster, I did get to go to a development a little bit outside of the region's main city, which is Sendai. It was built by one of Japan's largest construction companies. This is a company that just completed their 100,000th solar home. Each of the soon-to-be 700 homes in this development incorporated rooftop solar with limited battery storage, all LED lighting, an electric vehicle hookup, and a home energy management system that coordinates all of these technologies together. If the grid goes down, the occupants get to choose which circuits they want to keep online. Instead of being totally cut off during a disaster, they can see how they can use their limited supply of electricity to either turn on the radio or TV and be able to get those disaster warnings from the government, get an entire day's worth of refrigeration, or run heating or cooling systems. And the housing agent that I talked to said that people are willing to pay a modest premium for this type of housing, not because they're trying to save money, but because they want safety and security for their families. And there was a newfound concern about energy after the disaster at Fukushima Daiichi. So I got back to Connecticut and started looking through our state's draft energy strategy. And with two major storms last year, I was pretty surprised to see that there was almost nothing on energy security, that it was really an afterthought. It's a distant second to what I think is a laudable goal of improving energy efficiency and the more questionable goal of extending natural gas pipelines all throughout our state. And I think we have an opportunity here to learn from the disasters of Japan and also the disaster of New Jersey and ensure that we can keep some basic infrastructure like pharmacies and hospitals and shelters online even when the grid goes down and fuel supplies are cut off. I mean, we really can't assume that there's going to be an endless supply of gasoline or diesel fuel during a disaster. And I also think that we need some homes that are able to stay online during a disaster to be able to disseminate information to neighbors, to be able to help keep the elderly or the sick warm. Homeowners, if you have PV and you have backup and you have a heat pump heating and cooling system, you can keep running in an emergency. Or if you have an electric vehicle, you could potentially also store it there and then also be able to travel even if there is no gasoline at that point. So these are the sort of things that they're embracing in Japan, that they're looking at in these little towns, that they're using these technologies. They're using 21st century technologies that they have to think about how to balance all these needs together. And I think for a lot of us, global warming may feel like a vague threat, and the supercharged weather events that it spawns are really anything but. I mean, these are direct attacks on our families and neighborhoods. So if little towns in rural Japan can figure out how to give their residents safety and security in these times of acute disaster, while at the same time putting their society on a path to address the mega threat of global warming, well, why can't Connecticut? Why can't the United States of America? So these are the questions that I come back with. I don't have the answers, but I'm hoping that as part of this panel tonight, some of the experts that we have here in the audience on solar, on storage, on other technologies could maybe think a little bit about what a more resilient future might look like for our state. One that addresses global warming, that puts us on a cleaner energy path, and one that keeps us safe and sound no matter what happens. Thank you.